Grab yourself a coffee and pull up a seat because today I'm teaching you how to play as the merchant in Mythwind. I'm Mark Maya and this is Board Game Coffee.
Get back here this instant!
Thank you. Oh, I love you too. I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you. Thank you.
Alright, today we're learning how to play as the merchant character in Mythwind. If you're interested in learning about other Mythwind characters, check out the other how-to videos that I've linked in the description. There's a video for each character. And if you're looking for the core rules, we've got a link to that too. Not to mention a complete index for all the information for this video. Now let's open up shop and learn everything there is to know about being a merchant. In Mythwind Valley, the merchant seeks the highest profit, skillfully navigating the changing market. But with rival merchants also in pursuit of the valley's wealth, the race to prosperity heats up. Who will dominate the marketplace? Before we learn how to play as the merchant, let's get to know her a little bit. In the dynamic marketplace of Mythwind Valley, you step into the role of the merchant, a keen trader dealing with 4 unique goods: food, fur, wine, and tools. As the merchant, you're tasked with skillfully balancing the intricate supply and demand of these goods to maximize your profit. But tread carefully. The marketplace is alive with rival merchants, each maneuvering to outdo the other. As the market evolves, even more astute competitors will emerge to claim their slice of the pie. And amidst this bustling commerce are the citizens of Mythwind Valley, always on the hunt for the best deals. As the merchant, it's crucial to set your prices just right, making your shop the most sought-after destination. Can you outwit your rivals and captivate the customers to dominate the Mythwind market? Well, there's only one way to find out. The setup instructions that we're going to cover in this video will focus on what you need to do to set up the merchant for your first game. For every other game that you play with the merchant after this one, you'll need to follow the Continue the Game section laid out in the back of the merchant's journal. That said, let's set up the merchant. Alright, first up, slot the 2 merchant boards and the merchant header into the merchant tray like so. Then grab the merchant miniature along with 10 coins and your 10 merchant skill tokens and place them next to your tray, making sure that the skill tokens are face down like this so that their levels are visible. Next, we set up the merchant tracks. For each 4 goods, you'll take a worker die from the supply and give it a roll. If you get a blank, simply re-roll until you have a number. Then place a good token of that type in the corresponding slot on its resource track. So if you roll a 1, position the good in the first slot of its track. Repeat this step for each good, and once you're done, return the worker back to the supply. Now we're going to create our market stockpile by placing 4 of each good in this holding area here. I like to make sure that the token stock lines up with the track for that good. Then place 2 of each good next to your tray. This will be your personal merchant stockpile. Next, shuffle the tendency cards, customer cards, and 3 rival decks, levels 1, 2, and 3, into separate piles. Then place those piles within easy reach, along with all your upgrade tokens and remaining good tokens. To create the marketplace, reveal the top 2 cards of the level 1 rival deck and position them face up near the character tray, one above the other. On the left side of each rival, place 1 face down tendency card. And to the right of the topmost rival, place a face up customer card. Now give each rival the amount of coins and goods displayed on their individual cards. The coins you give them will come from the general supply, but the goods will come from the market stockpile that we set up earlier. In the end, your marketplace should look something like this. And now that we're open for business, let's learn how to play. Okay, first let's go over a few basic merchant concepts and what separates them from the other characters. Now, for the merchant, there's quite a bit to discuss, so you might want to top off that coffee before we start. As the merchant, you'll be buying and selling 4 types of goods: food, fur, wine, and tools. Your merchant character tray acts as the market board, showcasing the ever-changing values of each good. As goods are traded, their values shift on their respective tracks, adjusting their market prices, which are displayed here. For example, the market board is telling me that the current market price for fur is at 3 coins, and wine is at 4 coins. Every purchase you or your rival makes increases the good's market value, while every sale drags it down. This is referred to as trending. Unfortunately for you, you're not the only shop in town, and rival merchants are out for their piece of the pie. Every rival is represented by a unique card. Just like you, they buy, sell, and interact with customers. They even have their own way of doing things and their own set prices. All the goods and coins a rival receives are laid out on their card. This will give you a good sense of what your rivals have in stock and how much coin they have on hand, which is all information that you're going to want to keep track of if you want to stay competitive. There are always 2 rivals actively trading in the market, and more skilled rivals will start to show up as the market becomes more prosperous, which will be determined by this market track. Whenever you need to add new rivals to the market, pick a card from the deck that matches the market's current best performing good. For example, as we can see here, wine is the best performing good in the market. So when a rival card is drawn, it is drawn from the level 2 deck, because wine has surpassed the level 2 threshold on the market track. If it was above the 3 line, then we would draw rivals from the level 3 deck. But the market is always changing, so make sure you check it each time you introduce a new rival. Because if it drops all the way down again, which it probably will at some point, then you're back to drawing rivals from a lower level deck. If you ever need to draw a rival, but the deck you need to draw it from is empty, just draw it from the deck 1 level below. Now, if that deck is also empty, then you'll have to draw it from the merchant's acquired rivals, which is a whole other thing that we'll explain later in the video. There are a finite number of goods in the market at any one time. So if you hear me talking about a stockpile that is limitless, it's only limitless up to the number of available goods in the market as a whole, which includes all the goods total in every stockpile. Stockpiles are designated storage areas for these limited goods. Those not in active circulation are placed in the game's supply, alongside other out-of-play tokens and cards. You don't use these goods until the time comes for you to add them into the market circulation. Each good's availability in the market corresponds to its position on the market track, which is separated into 3 distinct tiers: Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Initially, every good is introduced at Tier 1, with an availability of 6 each. So if you count all of a particular token, let's say wine for example, you'll see that the total number of wine tokens in circulation is equal to 6. However, if a particular good advances to Tier 3, the availability of that good doubles to 12. Alright, now that you got a good sense of how goods in circulation work, let's take a look at all the different stockpiles that we've got around the table. The merchant stockpile is your own personal stockpile that you'll keep by your tray. It's where you'll hold all the goods that you've acquired, and there is no limit to how many goods you can have in it. Every rival has a designated storage space on their card, but there's a limit to how many goods they can hoard. The maximum amount of goods a rival can hold will be listed here, and can vary from one rival to another. And note that coins do not count toward this limit. The area above the market board is your market stockpile. It holds the goods that have yet to be bought by you or your rivals, and there is no limit to how many goods it can hold. The marketplace is where all the action happens in the merchant's play area. Here's a quick breakdown. First thing you need to know is that there will always be two rivals in the marketplace, and each has their own tendency card that controls how they behave. Secondly, customers. There's only ever one customer in the market at a time, and they'll always be standing next to one of your rivals. The row of cards within the marketplace that contains a customer is referred to as the customer row, and the customer row is where most of the action is resolved during the dawn phase. Later in the video, we'll go over what the customer does, how the rivals react, and everything else you need to know about the market. As we mentioned in the video for the core rules, each day in Mythwind is separated into 3 phases: dawn, daytime, and dusk. Many of the rules for those phases have been explained in the core rules video and consist of steps that are shared between all characters. So I won't be going over those steps in this video. Instead, I'll be focusing on what the merchant character does differently in each of those phases. So let's start from the top, the dawn phase. The dawn phase for the merchant adds 2 additional steps. In the core rules video, we learned how to determine the weather, check season effects, and resolve weather effects. Once you're done doing that, the merchant shifts the market and then resolves the marketplace action. So first, let's learn about shifting the market. Before we shift the market, let's take a closer look at the merchant's season preference chart. If you look here, you'll notice that each of these seasons has a preferred good. For example, in the winter, the preference is fur. This chart here will determine if the value of that seasonal good will increase or decrease based on the day's weather. If the weather is sunny, the market value of the preferred good will be increased by 1. If the weather is rainy, it will be decreased by 1. And if the weather is cloudy, no changes are made to that good's value. All adjustment to a good's value will be tracked here on the market board. Let's run through a quick example of shifting the market. If our current season is spring, our preferred good of the season would be tools. And if the day is sunny, we would increase the value of tools. We do this by moving the tool token 1 space up on the market board. The last thing the merchant is going to do before we move on to the day phase is resolve the marketplace action. And what happens during the marketplace action and who does it is dependent on the effect displayed on the current weather card. Allow me to explain. If the current weather card shows this construction queue icon, then the customer will be the one to perform the action. If the weather card shows this event icon, then the rival, the one in the customer row, will be the one to perform the action. But if the weather card shows no icon, then it's a slow day at the market and neither the rival nor the customer take an action. Alright, so either a customer takes an action or a rival takes an action. But what does any of that mean? Well, I'm going to tell you. Alright, if the weather card was displaying this event icon, it means the rival in the customer row will perform a marketplace action. Rivals, just like the merchant, have their own strategies. And what those strategies are will be determined by their tendency card. So, once you've determined that the rival is the one who takes the action, start by flipping over the tendency card for the rival in the customer row. This card lays out 3 potential actions that the rival will perform. The rival has a preferred order of operations. They'll always try the top action first, and if they can't do that action, they'll move on to the middle action. If they can't do that, then they'll resort to the bottom action. But regardless of what action they settle on, they'll only ever execute one of these actions. And once they perform that one action, they stop. Their turn is over. And if for some reason they can't perform any of these actions, well, I guess they're closing up shop early and doing nothing. But hey, for the sake of this teach, let's say they can perform an action. Here's what they do. There are three main actions a rival can perform: buy, sell, or manufacture. The type of goods that your rivals will want to buy, sell, or manufacture is determined by the icon in this column. And this little number here indicates how many of those items they are buying or selling. So in this example, this rival wants to buy 2 of these goods. Once you learn how to read these icons, controlling your rival's actions is fairly simple. So let's go over what each of these icons mean and how you perform each of those actions. The good icons you'll come across will either be one of the standard good types, a good based on the seasonal preference, or a good based on the rival's preference. The standard good types are pretty self-explanatory. They're referring to the 4 standard good types. When you see this seasonal preference icon, it's referring to the preferred seasonal good depicted on the merchant's character tray. So if the current season was spring, this icon would be referring to tools. This rival preference icon is specific to each rival and is indicated on their card. So in this example, the rival's preference would be wine. Each of these icons might be seen together with a number or infinity symbol. The number represents the maximum quantity of that specific good that the rival can buy or sell. If no number is displayed, the maximum is 1. However, the infinity sign means that the rival will aim to buy or sell as much of the good as possible. This is typically limited by a good's market availability or the number of coins a rival has on hand. The weather can also play a role in the rival's decisions. Some actions are only valid under specific weather conditions. If you see a weather icon next to an action on a rival's tendency card, it means that the action can only be taken if it matches today's weather. Some of these weather-driven effects will even increase or decrease a good's market value. For example, if we were following this tendency card and the weather was sunny, we would perform this action here and increase the market value of the preferred seasonal item by 1. If you come across an icon that you don't know or can't remember what it means, there's an icon index in the back of the merchant's journal for easy reference. That said, there's still a lot more to this how to play video, and many of those icons will show up again in other sections of this video. Alright, so we've learned what all these icons mean, and we know that the rival has 3 possible actions available to them. They can buy, sell, or manufacture. So now let's learn how each of those actions work, starting with the buy action. When a rival is directed to perform a buy action, their goal is to buy the indicated goods from the market stockpile and add them to their own stockpile. The cost of any good is determined by its place on the market board. So in this example, the rival wants to buy 2 furs. As we can see from the market board, fur is currently valued at 3 coins. So to buy 2 furs, the rival will need to spend 6 coins. To complete this transaction, the rival will take 6 coins off their card, place it in the general supply, and then take 2 fur tokens from the market stockpile and place them on their card. Keeping in mind that each rival has a maximum capacity of goods that they can carry. Once the rival successfully buys at least 1 item, the market value for that specific good type is increased by 1. And just so we're clear, no matter how many copies a rival buys at one time, you will only ever increase the market value of that good type by 1. If the rival cannot afford to buy at least one of the indicated good type, or they don't have enough room in their stockpile to carry at least one of those goods, then the rival cannot take the buy action and must move on to the next action. If the rival had to pass on the good action, there's a good chance it's because they were a little light on the coinage. But not to worry, that's why we have the sell action, to get more coinage. When the rival is performing the sell action, they will try to sell as much of the item shown as possible, up to the maximum amount indicated here. But unlike buying goods, when selling goods, the rival will earn an amount of coins equal to the value listed on their card. So in this example, the rival is trying to sell as much wine as they can to a maximum of 3. If they don't have 3 wines in their personal stockpile, they'll just sell as much as they can. In this case, 2. When a rival sells a good, they will remove it from their personal stockpile and return it to the market stockpile. Then receive money from the general supply for the total value of items sold. And since the rival's wines are priced at 3 coins each, and they sold 2, they will receive 6 coins from the general supply. After a successful sale, regardless of the amount sold, the market value of that specific good type is reduced by 1. If the rival didn't have any wine to sell, they cannot perform the sell action, in which case they would move on to the next action. The manufacturing action, the last stop on the rival's possible action tray. If your rival has reached this low on their tendency card, it probably means that they were too broke to buy anything or had no stock to sell. It happens to the best of us. When performing the manufacturing action, just take the indicated good from the market stockpile and add it to the rival's personal stockpile. Note that this process is free of charge. It won't cost the rival a thing. However, if the rival's stockpile is maxed out, then they won't be able to take the manufacturing action. In addition, if the good they're instructed to take is no longer available in the market stockpile, that will also prevent them from taking the manufacturing action. There will be no substitutes. And that's it for the rival actions. Now let's take a look at what happens when we trigger a customer action. The customer action allows the customer in the marketplace to influence the market and buy goods. Each customer card has 2 actions, trend and buy. When activating the customer, first resolve the trend action shown on the top portion of the card, then the buy action found at the bottom of the card. Unlike the rival, customers will perform all the actions indicated on their card, starting with the trend action. The trend action directly affects the market board by increasing or decreasing the market value of the good depicted on the customer card. If the good is accompanied by an up arrow, increase the market value of that good. If it was accompanied by a down arrow, then you would decrease the value of that good. Once you've resolved the customer's trend action, move on to the customer's buy action. The buy action allows a customer to buy goods from the merchant and rivals. You'll notice that the customer's buy action looks much like the rival's buy action. It's got a buy icon here, followed by the good and quantity of the good they wish to purchase. The main difference is this arrow here. This is the customer's pricing preference. If it shows a down arrow, the customer is looking for the lowest priced wine. If it's showing an up arrow, they would be looking for the highest priced wine. Nothing but the best for those customers. Let's walk through an example. According to this customer's buy action, they are looking for 2 of the most expensive food goods. The first thing they're going to do is compare the merchant's market price with the price indicated on the rival's card. Remember, we're only dealing with the rival in the customer row. If the merchant and the rival are tied for cost, the customer will always buy from the rival first. But as we can see here, the rival has the most expensive food anyways, so that's who the customer is going to buy from. The buying process is pretty straightforward and works the same regardless of who the goods are being bought from. The customer takes the quantity of goods depicted on their card from the stockpile of the merchant or rival that they're buying from, and returns those goods to the market stockpile. They will then pay the merchant or the rival for those goods with coins from the general supply. The customer will continue to buy goods from the same source as long as the goods are available. But here's a situation that you're definitely going to come across. Let's say the customer was buying 2 foods from a rival, but the rival only had 1 food in stock. In this case, the customer would buy that 1 food, pay the rival, and then move on to the merchant. If the merchant has food available in their stockpile, then the customer will continue to buy from the merchant until they've bought the remaining number of goods they were looking for, which in this case would be 1 more food. Now, if the rival in the customer row or the merchant do not have enough stock to fulfill the customer's order, then, and only then, will the customer buy from the other rival, the one that is not in the customer row. After the marketplace action concludes, it's time to refresh the marketplace. If you just completed a rival action, remove the tendency card you revealed and replace it with a new card from the top of the tendency deck. Then shuffle the tendency card you just removed back into the deck. However, if you just completed a customer action, take a new customer from the top of the customer deck and place it next to the rival that does not have a customer. Then remove the old customer and shuffle it back into the customer deck. The start of the daytime phase begins with the merchant performing a town action as described in the core rules video. Once that's done, they'll move on to performing their specific character action. In the case of the merchant, they will conduct business, then resolve a skill. So let's go over those steps, starting with conduct business. When it comes time to conduct business, the merchant will choose one of their 5 actions: sell, stock, manufacture or trend, guild, or buy. Each of these options are indicated on the character tray. And as we covered in the alignment section of the core rules video, the actions available to the merchant will be dependent on their alignment. If the merchant is aligned with sprites, they'll be able to perform any one of these 3 actions. If the merchant is aligned with villagers, they'll be able to perform any one of these 3 actions. Note that the middle action can be used regardless of the merchant's alignment. And in case I haven't said it already, you're only performing one of these 5 actions. That said, let's go over each of those actions and how they work, starting with the sell action. The sell action enables the merchant to offload goods from their stockpile at the current market rate. To perform the sell action, the merchant selects a single type of good from their stockpile and sells as many as they want. Move the goods you want to sell from the merchant stockpile into the market stockpile. For every good sold, the merchant collects coins equal to the current value of that good. So, since fur is currently valued at 4 coins, if I sell 2 fur, I'll make 8 coins. After completing the sale of a specific good, the market value for that good is decreased by 1, regardless of how many goods you just sold. And remember, when selling goods, you can only sell one type at a time. You can't sell fur and wine. You'll have to choose one. The stock action allows the merchant to purchase any amount of a single good from any one rival. The goods you buy are transferred from the rival's stockpile to the merchant's stockpile. The cost for each item is indicated on the rival's card. So in this case, if I want to buy these 2 wine goods, it would cost me 3 coins each. The coins you spend are moved from your personal stash and placed on the rival's card. The merchant can't buy more than what the rival has in stock. The manufacture or trend action allows the merchant to either obtain goods from the market stockpile or adjust a good's position on the market board up or down 1 space. When performing this action, the merchant selects between manufacture or trend. They don't do both. But regardless of which one they choose, once they're done, they'll have the option to upgrade the market. The manufacture option allows the merchant to pick any one good from the market stockpile and transfer it to their stockpile, and it's completely free. By choosing the trend action, the merchant can increase or decrease the value of a single good on the market board by 1. Once you're done performing the manufacture or trend action, you'll have the option to buy one of these 6 upgrade tokens. Upgrade tokens are placed on the market board to create larger fluctuations when trending the market. 4 of these tokens are standard upgrades that are associated with a particular good and can only be placed on that specific good's track. The other 2 are advanced upgrades and can be used on any track. However, you can't buy these advanced upgrades until you've purchased all 4 of the standard upgrades. When you buy an upgrade, place it in one of the available slots of the market upgrade track. So if I placed it here, the next time this good would be increased, it'll skip this row entirely and jump ahead to the next one. This really helps speed up how fast the good increases in value, and it's just as effective in the other direction as well. The cost to purchase a standard upgrade is 10 coins, plus a number of coins equal to the market price of the slot where the upgrade is placed. So in this example, placing an upgrade in this slot would cost me 14 coins, 10 for the upgrade, and 4 for the slot I placed it in. Now, if you want to buy one of those advanced upgrades, that's going to cost you 10 coins and a previously acquired rival. You heard me right. A rival. The same guys that have been buying and selling in the market are now being traded as a means of earning upgrades. Crazy, right? I mean, how do you even acquire these? Well, I'm going to tell you later in the video. For now, all I can tell you is it ain't going to be cheap. Regardless of which upgrade token you buy, once it's placed, it stays there forever. The guild action allows merchants to seize control of rival operations. When they do, the merchant will claim all the goods in the rival's stockpile, along with the rival card itself. The first thing you're going to want to do when deciding to take over a rival's business is determine the rival's worth. You do this by totaling the value of coins and goods they have in their possession. The value of a good is based on its current market value as indicated on the market board. So if I wanted to take over this rival here, it would go something like this. First thing I'm going to do is total up the value of all their goods. Let's see here. The current market value for fur is 2 coins, and the current market value for food is 4 coins. So seeing that we have 3 fur and 2 food, that would bring us to a total market value of 14 coins. Then I'll add to that the 15 coins they have on hand. And that brings us to a grand total of 29. So now that we've assessed this rival's worth at 29 coins, we would double that number, bringing us to 58, and that would be our cost to acquire that rival. I told you it wasn't going to be cheap. Once you acquire a rival, add all the goods from their stockpile into your stockpile, and keep the rival card face down in your play area. Then return all their coins to the general supply. You don't get to keep those. These acquired rivals work kind of like a currency that you can use to pay for things like the upgrades we discussed earlier, or to cover the cost of the merchant's skill tokens, which we haven't talked about yet, but we will, eventually. Now it's time to move some cards around. Place the tendency card of the rival you just acquired on the bottom of the tendency deck. Then introduce a new rival to the market, along with a new face-down tendency card, and place them in the same location as the card you just removed. And remember, when a new rival card is added to the marketplace, draw it from the deck that matches the highest rival level that has been surpassed by at least 1 good in the market. So if the highest good was this tool token, we would replace the rival we just acquired with a level 2 rival. The buy action allows us to acquire goods straight from the market stockpile. To make a purchase, select a single type of good and buy as many of that good as you want or can afford. Upon completion of the purchase, increase the market value for that particular good by 1 space. Once you're done performing your character action, move on to the resolve skill portion of your turn. In the core video, we touched a bit on how we buy skills for our character, and we'll go over that in more detail a little later in this video. But for now, here's a brief introduction on how to resolve skills. Let's say, as the merchant, I chose to perform the buy action. Once I've completed the buy action, I would resolve any skill that I've slotted in the space adjacent to that action. So in this example, after my buy action, I would resolve this skill here that lets me increase the value of one of my hired workers by 1 for the cost of 1 coin. Now, if this skill slot were empty, well then, I wouldn't have any skills to resolve. Once you've performed your merchant action and resolved your skill, if any, we move on to the last portion of the merchant's daytime routine, which is perform worker action. Alright, in the core video, we learned how to hire workers. Now, we're going to learn how to use them. You'll notice that next to each of your conduct business actions, there's a slot that will hold a single worker. During the perform worker action, you can take a worker from your dice well, tick it down 1 step, and slot it into an action of the matching color. This will allow you to perform the action associated with the slot that you placed your worker in. So, by placing my sprite worker here, I would be able to perform the stock action following the same rules that we discussed earlier in the video, although I won't resolve the skill token associated with that action. And the best part is, as long as I still have workers in my dice well, I can keep using them to perform actions. But I want to clarify, you can only use 1 worker per action. You can't just pile them onto the same action. The merchant doesn't require any additional steps during the Dusk Phase, so just go through the usual steps that we covered in the Mythwind How to Play video for the core rules. Return your characters and your workers. That's it. In our Mythwind How to Play video for the core rules, we learned all about the steps that we need to take when reaching the end of the season. Some characters, like the merchant, have a resolve character upkeep step, in addition to the regular end of season procedures. So after you've resolved the end of season actions, resolved your goal cards, reset the weather deck, and changed your season tile, all of which we covered in the core rules video, move on to the resolve character upkeep. And if you're playing with the merchant, this is what you do. The merchant actually has 2 steps to perform during their character upkeep. You'll have to recreate the marketplace and update the stockpile. However, if you're preparing to save the game or just put the merchant away, you can skip her character upkeep altogether. But let's assume we're not putting her away just yet. To recreate the marketplace, the merchant first shuffles all the cards back into their appropriate decks. Any goods remaining in rival stockpiles are returned to the market stockpile, and any coins they have go back into the general supply. Then the merchant creates a new marketplace layout by placing 2 rivals, one above the other, 2 face-down tendency cards, one for each rival, and 1 visible customer card adjacent to the topmost rival. As mentioned earlier in the video, each rival card is drawn from the deck that corresponds to the highest rival level that has been surpassed by at least 1 good on the market board. Once you have all that in place, add the indicated amount of goods and coins to each of the rival cards, just like we did during the setup. If for some reason there isn't enough good tokens in the market stockpile to meet the requirements of the rival setup, then pull the outstanding amount from the out-of-game supply. To update the market stockpile, the merchant reviews each good to ensure the number of tokens in the market aligns with the good's current market availability, as indicated here. The number of tokens for a particular good spread across various stockpiles, which includes the market, merchant, and rival stockpiles, should equal the market availability for that good. So if the value of our food good was down here in this section of the market board, there should be 6 total food tokens in all stockpiles. If the value of any one of these goods was somewhere in the middle zone, for example, wine, then there should be 9 total wine tokens in all stockpiles. And if a good was all the way up here in this top section, let's say tools, there should be 12 total tools in all stockpiles. Since the market availability is only checked during the merchant character's upkeep, it's quite possible that the value of your goods and the number of tokens available don't match up. If this happens, just add or remove tokens from the market stockpile until you've got the appropriate amount of good tokens in all stockpiles. Now, during the process of setting the count right, it's quite possible that the total number of goods in the merchant and rivals stockpiles is greater than the market availability for that good. When that happens, just make sure that there are no goods of that type in the market stockpile. For example, let's say the market availability for wine is at 6, but between the merchant stockpile and the rivals stockpile, we have 8 total wine tokens in circulation, which is 2 more tokens than should be available. That's okay. But whatever you do, do not add any more tokens for that good into the market stockpile. And while you're adjusting counts, never remove any good tokens from the merchant or rivals. As highlighted in our core rules video, characters earn skills via the longhouse, or certain game effects with this skill icon. To obtain a skill, the merchant must pay its cost using the rival cards that they've acquired. How many rival cards you need will be indicated here. If you don't see a number, then only 1 acquired rival card is needed. So, to pay for this skill, I would spend 1 rival card. Skills have 3 levels. To access levels 2 and 3, one of the depicted sprites must be in play. These sprites will be unlocked by certain event cards. Upon paying for a skill, flip it over, revealing its ability side, and place it into one of the slots on your character tray. When you earn a new skill token, you're free to rearrange any of the skill tokens on your character tray. But that's the only time you can rearrange your skill tokens, so place wisely. If you're looking for a breakdown of what each of these merchant skill tokens do, there's a skill index in the back of the merchant's journal. When you reach the end of a season, you have a few options. Do you start a new season continuing on with your current character? Do you put your current character away and start up a new one? Or do you put the entire game away and come back to play another day? Well, whatever your decision, you'll find instructions on how to save your character's progress or how to continue with a new character in the back of that character's personal journal. And you can find instructions for saving and continuing your progress of the main board either in our Mythwind How to Play video or in the back of the town charter. And that's it. I hope this video helps and I hope you enjoy playing Mythwind. See you next week.
Thanks for joining us. If you like this video and you want to see more, subscribe to our channel. It's the best way to keep up to date with everything we do here at Board Game Coffee. But if you want to see more right now, we got plenty of videos to choose from. And if that's not enough, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm Mark Maya, and this is Board Game Coffee. And remember, have fun, keep gaming, be social. See you next week.